Good afternoon, 5-to-1 Exchange. I hope you guys are doing well today. We're halfway done with this week and making progress, hopefully getting back to normal. I hope that your first full week of summer break is going well, that you guys get the chance to kind of hang out and relax. No schoolwork, no papers, no tests, no nothing. Just getting to have some fun. Today we're going to continue our devotional series looking at the book of James, and today we're looking specifically at James chapter 3. Now, this chapter is very famous because of what James has to say about the tongue, and you may have heard this passage brought up a lot, especially in youth groups and churches as you've been growing up. And James has a lot to say about how dangerous the tongue is, and what's interesting is that he picks the tongue out of all the members of the body. He picks specifically the tongue to talk about and how it can be used to such deadly effect. And this is what he writes in chapter 3, verse 3. He says, "Now we put bits into the mouths of horses." If you don't know what a bit is, it's a metal bar that goes back into a horse's mouth. It's connected to the harness and the reins, and you can pull it, and that's kind of what pulls back on the horse. They use it to control horses. And so he's saying, we put bits in the mouths of horses so they obey us, and we direct their whole bodies by these small bits. And consider ships, these big boats. Though very large and driven by fierce winds, they are guided by a very small rudder by wherever the will of the pilot directs. And so if you've ever seen the rudder on a ship, you may not see them quite the same way on modern ships, because I think the rudders are kind of built into where the engines go. But if you look at the rudder on a lot of big ships, it's this small little piece that kind of looks like a fin, and it goes underwater. And you can have these massive ships like this big. I'm gonna try and get this into, gotta figure out which hand's which. There we go. You can have this big ship like this big, and the rudder may only be about this wide. Okay? And so compared to the size of the ship, it's very small. But when the pilot, the captain steers the ship, he turns that rudder just a little bit, and that whole massive ship moves through the water, guided by that rudder. And so James is using these two illustrations about guiding a horse and steering a ship, and he says the tongue works the same way. Though the tongue is small physically and in sense of importance to the body, we normally don't think of the tongue as a very important, like speech is important, but when you think of, okay, what parts of my body do I need, the tongue isn't normally the first thing that comes to mind. And he's saying, although the tongue is so small, it can steer your life and your person in vastly different directions based on how you use it. And he goes on and he talks about the tongue. We can at 1 minute bless somebody, speak goodwill towards them, and the very next be cursing somebody. I mean, it's that fast to switch directions. And he goes that this isn't just the tongue that's doing this, it comes from what's inside of us. He says, like a spring that flows forth and is spilling out water, he says whatever's inside of us will bubble out and will come out via our tongue, through our speech. And so when you have somebody that's constantly just spewing evil, spewing hatred, spewing anger through their words, it's flowing from somewhere inside of them. Those words start somewhere. When you have somebody that is constantly bringing forth good, they're constantly blessing and praising and enriching someone through their speech, that is flowing from somewhere, from their heart. And James is writing us right now, he's saying as believers, we have to be very, very careful to control our tongue. Now, the truth is, even as a believer, being a Christian, that is not the easiest thing to do. In fact, I think that controlling the tongue is probably one of the most difficult things to do as a Christian. For two reasons. One, I don't think we always give thought to how much impact our words have. I think, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me. That's a blatant lie. I think every one of us can attest to a time that somebody has said something to us, and they didn't hit us with a stick, but their words certainly stung as if we'd been hit. And a lot of times words are carried with us far longer than the welt from a stick or a rock. The other thing is this, I think that our tongue moves so fast, we speak so fast without giving thought necessarily to what's coming out. I don't know if you're like me, I speak a lot of times faster than my thoughts. So here's my words, and my mind is kind of racing to catch up with what I'm saying. And because of that, I think sometimes we say things without fully thinking it through. Maybe you've been in a situation like that where you've said something in anger or in haste, and as soon as you said it, you're like, I didn't really mean to say that. Or maybe the opposite side, you said something dumb, and as soon as you say it, you're like, I really didn't mean for it to come out like that. I wanted it to sound a lot better. And as Christians, we suffer the same as anyone, where our tongue can be just as deadly. But James is saying, as Christians, this should not be the case. We should be very, very, very cautious with how we use our words. Our words should be something that build and enrich others. They should not tear others down. Now, does that mean that we should never use our words to call out things that we think are wrong? Absolutely not. Our speech is very powerful, as James puts here. And when we see injustice, when we see something that is unbiblical, when we see something that is wrong, our words are very powerful in calling that out. But on the same note, our words can be very powerful in cutting someone off at the knees because we're frustrated and because we're angry. James is writing here that the tongue and the words that come from it can be like a poison if we're not careful. It can affect everything. It can affect others. It can rip apart stories and destroy ideas, ruin a day. And so as believers, as Christians, we are called to be very, very careful in our speech, to use it for good. It is very powerful. And James says we must use that speech to steer the ship of our body in a good direction. Be careful not to let it get caught in the tide and steer off into another direction. And guys, I know this is not an easy discipline to have. Believe me, I struggle constantly with disciplining my tongue and watching what I say. But I have found in my life that as deadly as the tongue can be, saying a sharp remark like that, just as quickly it is capable of so much good. And maybe you even experienced a time where somebody has said something to you that's poured into you, uplifted you, and that's carried with you for years. Nothing they did outside of just their words. And so as you go through this week, my encouragement to you is, one, to be very careful about how you speak. Before you say anything to a friend, to a family member, online, on social media, pause for just a moment, 30 seconds, think through what you're saying. The other thing is this: look for opportunities. You may not feel like you can do much in a situation. You may not have the finances to really change that situation. You may not have the skills to pursue a direction with this situation, but you do have words. And so I want you to look around the situations going around you, the people that you come into contact with, and think, how could your words alone enrich that situation? And you never know what you might say that gets carried with somebody for years, enriching them and encouraging them as they go through their story. Guys, I love you so much. I'm so excited to be doing this devotion with you. I'm looking forward to getting to spend more time with you, hopefully towards the end of June and through July, as we'll hopefully be meeting again, doing some small group activities, and eventually getting back to Wednesday nights. I love you. I hope your week's going well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this passage. If you want to comment down below on our YouTube channel, or if you want to message us on Instagram, just share how your summer's going so far. I'd love to know just what you're doing to have fun. Middle schoolers will be meeting with you tonight, and high schoolers, I'm looking forward to spend some time hanging out with you guys tomorrow night. And until next time, take care, guys.